Spencer Hsu here, your tech realtor of the Bay Area. And today's topic is going to be about how do you buy a home given the circumstances out in the marketplace right now. There's changes happening daily in this industry because a lot of it is being reflected from the additional information that is coming in from the government in terms of what realtors can and can't do, especially because most of the things happening in the Bay Area have a shelter in place, so only essential work can be done. Even as of, I believe, just yesterday, that construction is no longer an essential service. So as you can imagine, things are changing pretty frequently. So this strategy will always kind of get adjusted depending on when an individual is looking. So I tell all of my clients just be flexible related to that. But before we cover how do you actually buy a home in this environment, the first thing is to cover is not everyone should be buying a home right now, right? Number one, the most important part of everything is safety, right? So if you feel like you are potentially at risk, there's different ways to mitigate that risk. But if you have loved ones that are sick and mentally you're not ready to do so, highly respected, we can always re-engage much later on. Number two, if your job is one of those that are at risk. So a lot in the service industry, a lot of small businesses, it may make sense for them to not buy and to save up during this time. However, it's also important to understand, who is at risk, who is not at risk from a job loss perspective. And one of the big indicators is related to the companies that are hiring. So a lot of the clients that I have that are in the tech industry, let's say they're software engineers or data scientists, the risk is relatively low, especially in those companies. They're still hiring and they're still onboarding right now as we speak, right? So those are personal decisions that you have to make. Everybody will have their own opinion. It's up to you if it makes sense. However, if those are factors that are not going to negatively impact your decision, then at that point, it's about why are you buying to begin with, right? Are you trying to buy an investment property? Are you trying to get out of your rental? You may notice that there's a lot of relief, so there's a lot of benefits as a homeowner right now. Most people can get mortgage relief for at least 3 months. But if you're a renter, that's a different question, right? Will your landlord give you that relief? And that makes it a lot trickier. So you always want to figure out what is the motivation of even buying to begin with? Are you trying to get out of rentals, right? Because rentals, you're basically ultimately paying someone else's mortgage, regardless if the market goes up or down. So it's guaranteed sunk cost. So that's something to also consider. So focus on the why. Like that should not have changed as long as these other circumstances that I brought up earlier have been resolved and have been alleviated. So when it comes to the home search, most of your research should be done as much as possible, all virtual now, right? Looking at photos, seeing there's a video tour, reading disclosures. The process is a little bit different now because you want to minimize how many times you're actually going to see the house. Right. So in the past, my clients and I would tell them, look at our pictures. If you like it, go see the house. Then we'll look at disclosures. But right now, you should do all of it ahead of time. Right. Be comfortable with everything and then use the final seeing of the property as the last decision point for you to either write or not write an offer. So there's a lot of work that you should be done beforehand. I tell all of my clients to do that. And that way, like I said, the showing will be the final aspect of it. Because at this time, realtors are not an essential service, at least here in the Bay Area. There are different ways to be able to see a property still. It just requires a lot more coordination, right? So I just had a client yesterday. They went to go see a property, but I had to coordinate them with the owner. But there's certain things to be prepared for so that my clients are also safe, and so is the other side. So whether it's wearing masks, bringing gloves, bringing disinfectants, there are certain procedures in place to minimize the amount of contact that there can be when going to see a place. However, as I mentioned, they only went to go see the place after they had already done all of their research related to comps, everything. This was the final step for them to decide if they want to move forward in writing an offer or not. So that is an option. The other option is depending on the property itself. So for example, new construction. Many times new construction, you would not even be able to go see it to begin with. So they have virtual tours, they have different 3D Matterports, floor plans, different things like that already in place. And so those are still going. And many times a lot of new construction may be discounting prices right now for various reasons, more macro level than just things on the local level. So those are good opportunities. And there are still also, a good amount of time left to be able to move in. So most of them are not necessarily move-in ready today. It may require 3 months, 6 months, but you can still make a purchase and make a deposit for those types of houses. So that's another avenue. And most of them, because of that they're kind of templates of one another, they're not like a single family house where almost every house will be different. The benefit of that is you can drive by the outside, have a better idea of the neighborhood and the area, and then the floor plans are all fairly new, and there may be only certain floor plans to even choose from. So that's also how some of my clients and how I would recommend people to still constantly still be updated and look, especially given the circumstances that we're in. The other opportunity right now is keeping an eye out on properties. So I'm going to do an inventory report and a market update tomorrow to show what happened of March. But a lot of the properties today will have contingencies in place. So it is possible for a property to drop out of escrow. Those are good opportunities for my buyers, not just because of the inventory is available, but also opportunities to potentially negotiate on price. Because for an individual to sell at this market, there's a reason why they're putting it on the market today, right? So there may be more wiggle room than ever before, not just less competition, but also more wiggle room on price. So that is something also to consider at this time as a possible strategy. So those are the main things to be aware of. Number one is going back to the motivation. Why are you even buying to begin with? Number two is safety. Number three is the job security. The risk is going to be different depending on the type of industry and the type of work that you do. And then from there, this is kind of the procedure of how I advise all of my clients. As I mentioned, every day we're getting different updates. So it's important that when you're working with your realtor, working with an individual like myself, that I will give you the latest updates as to how to best, one, protect you safety-wise, but also protect you from a real estate transaction perspective. So those are the highlights that I wanted to cover in terms of how people are buying a home given the environment that we're in today. Transactions and real estate is still moving. So make no mistake, nothing is at a standstill, and a lot of different core aspects of real estate, including lending, title, recording with the county are still going on. So that has not stopped. If you have any questions, let me know. I will come out with a market report tomorrow highlighting what is happening in my predictions as to what will likely happen with the market over the next few months. Any questions, let me know. Happy to be a resource. Reach out anytime. Have a good day.